There's a few things that AI, as we know it now, can't do. Taste, curate, and also be able to meld ideas based on lived experiences.
Yes.
The AI, again, is only reflecting what your output is only as good as your input. So if you're giving it good information, you're going to get better output. This assumption that because you're using an AI tool in your process that it's just giving you immediate good output is a fallacy. Greetings and welcome back to the Kiss My Aesthetic podcast. We have a repeat guest. I'm so excited she's back because the last time she was on was 2023. Can you believe it, Lauren?
I can't. It seems like yesterday.
It seems like yesterday, and it also seems like the world is a totally different place since we last talked.
Totally different.
We have a lot to cover, and we've already kind of brainstormed some places that we want to take this conversation. But for anyone who doesn't know you, can you please tell us who you are, what you do, and who you help?
Sure. My name is Lauren Goldstein, also known as the Biz Doctor, and I work with business owners who are in the messy millions of success, where they are struggling to have the freedom that they started their business for. So I come in and help them get that freedom with the right teams and operations so they can have a life instead of just a business that's kind of disguised as a job.
I think a lot of people can resonate with that. And I think I'd really love to approach this conversation from both the business owner side and the employee side, because I think there's a good deal of our audience that are in the early years of their career and trying to figure out how to be an asset to a business and how to stay on top of everything. But I want to start first with the owner POV. If you could summarize what some of the challenges your clients have had in the year 2025, because it's been a roller coaster. What are some of those themes that are coming up that you're like, oh, you know what? We're dealing with this across the board.
Yeah. So I think everyone across the board is thinking, well, because mostly I work with established businesses. So the theme this year has really been about legacy and succession planning. And, I do not have the statistics off the top of my head, but I think in the next 10 years, like some absurd amount, like 80% of businesses existing now are going to change hands due to like people retiring. And so a lot of my business owners that I'm working with are talking to themselves about like, how do I want to be in this business? What am I doing? Where is this going? I know the economy has been definitely a concern for everyone. But I think the common thread comes back to getting back in vision for your business and where you want to take it so you can be in the driver's seat rather than just going through the motions.
And coming back to what's the why, right? Like, why are we doing all this in the first place? What's the plan?
Yep.
We talked about on your last episode 136, for anyone curious if they want to go back into the archives, the difference between a legacy and a lifestyle business. And when I say that's like one of the stickiest nuggets I've taken away from the podcast, I bring it up with all of our clients because it drastically changes the plan and how we market and how we continue to build the culture and the team and everything relating to the company. Is this something that survives you, or is this something that's done when you're done? And that's kind of been my understanding of it. But in your words, can you describe, again, legacy business versus a lifestyle business?
Yeah. So a legacy business, in all intents and purposes, you're right. It's something that's going to live on through you. It's less and less about you being the brand and more the company business being a brand that you run. Whereas a lifestyle business, it tends to be you are the figurehead. You are the reason people come to you. You're the expert. And it's very different how you approach building all of those two businesses, because a lot of times, especially with business owners that I work with in the professional services space, you started your business to solve a problem. You are the expert in the room. And then one day you woke up and you were like, oh, dang, I have a business that now I'm working harder at than the job that I left to get the freedom that I want. And so it's like unlearning you needing to be the go-to resource and problem solver and expert. And if you want a lifestyle business that funds your lifestyle, that gives you the time and financial freedom you want, I am not throwing any shade at that. Like, that is amazing. Most small businesses are actually lifestyle businesses. But if you want something that's not attached to your persona, your brand, that can live on whether you're at the helm or not, that's a question you've got to ask. And each business has three brands. And I think this is one of the ways you can differentiate. So you've got the business's brand, you've got the personal brand of the person running the business, and then you have the product brand. And you can like Google's a great example of like we've got Google's brand and then we've got like Chrome and Gmail, like they're different brands. And then whoever's at the helm, you've got their leadership and their brand of how they're running the company. So it just kind of depends where you want to go and the kind of exit that you want to have, which I can talk about later. But exiting your business is something that's going to happen to everyone. You just have to
Uh-huh.
do it
Uh-huh.
on your terms. Otherwise, it will be on someone else's terms. And if you're not thinking about it, then you're going to get surprised.
Yeah, definitely. And this is something to kind of bring it to some of the projects that we talk about on this podcast all the time is we work with a real estate group in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It was
Mhm.
founded by three individuals. The brand is named for their three last names, but their conversation in hiring us to do the branding was they wanted a legacy heritage brand. They said, "We
Mhm.
want this brand. We have 25 agents on our team. We want this to sustain even as the founders retire, step away, move on." So
Mhm.
it's like this evolution. We've been really working with them since 2023 to kind of chart the brand evolution from the Falk Reuven Gallagher team to FRG team. Because if that's how
Mhm.
you're called, if in 50 years from now, is it going to matter who F, R, and G are? Like maybe
Mhm.
no. You know what I mean? Versus my business is very much tied to me. It's my own initials, which is not something I'd ever advise somebody to do for branding. Um, but it is an extension of me and it's an extension of my lifestyle. And my lifestyle does sell the brand. I don't
Yeah.
really foresee MK to be a creative co again, like living past that time frame. But it's that's kind of puts it in opposition. But I had literally this conversation yesterday with a client of mine. She has this brand Gallivant Society. She's a travel blogger influencer. And she's like, I'm confused what I'm supposed to post on my page versus what I'm supposed to post on the business page. I said, the business page
Oh.
exists without you. You have input and you have say, but on your personal, as like a personal individual who owns a business, people will still be interested in you as well.
Mhm.
But there has to be, you can't just keep posting the same thing in both places.
Yep. Yep.
So you're nodding along. So maybe you've had this conversation before about like individual thought leadership from a business owner standpoint. How are you informing your clients or brainstorming on that recently?
Well, I think it goes back to really understanding what the goal is
Yeah.
because it's kind of the chicken or the egg situation where if you do have a brand that's highly mobilized by the business owner, like you're the reason people are coming to you, you're the reason people know about you, you're out there speaking, etc. It's like, are you driving the brand or is the brand driving you? Is it like who's doing what? And I think that from my standpoint and something that I've struggled with, because I too used to do the same thing. I'm like, I'm gonna post it on here and then I'm gonna post it on there. I tend to think of the things that represent the brand and the company more as like overarching things that will very rarely change, but will make you think versus things that I post, like, I wanna peel back the curtain to who I am, and so it's like, sure, it could be business advice, but it could be, I went down the pickleball rabbit hole and was, like, obsessed with pickleball, so for a long it was, like, lessons from pickleball or lessons from the golf course or, you know, um, I was just thinking actually before we hopped on here, like, we're approaching the end of the year. I mean, I don't know when this is gonna air, but, like, we're approaching the end of the year, so I'm, like, thinking about my birthday's coming up, what am I gonna do? And so, like, that's gonna be a post about, "Here's what I learned in the past year. Here are my wins. Here are the things that I feel like I really fell down on my face about, and, like, this is what I'm committed to moving forward." But my business would never have that kind of post because it just doesn't make sense. But it could have a post of like, here are the trends we're seeing with clients. Here's some
Yes.
client wins. But it's not, I just see them as separation of like business and personal, even though I still am the business owner.
And I think the business has to, especially in the case of this client, she's running like fabulous traveling trips all over the world. She's
Mhm.
creating this community. the business needs to reflect the community and like the group
Yeah.
think of the community. What does the community believe? What do the employees believe? What are the partners and like the referral
Mhm.
sources? Like, what do they believe about the business? And that may be related to the founder, but that also may exist without her input. And so it's
Mhm.
trying to strike that balance between like what's appropriate in each place, but also, again, it gives you, when you do have separation, and this is what I'm explaining to her, is you get a sense of autonomy with this is just mine versus
Mhm.
this is me in my cartoon character version of myself wearing bright yellow at a networking event is a version of me, but that's
Yeah.
not all that I am. You know what I mean? And I think that kind of
Mhm.
separation, I think maybe in 2017 and 18, when every business advice on your business Instagram page was like, tell everyone your coffee order. Like we're still having to unlearn that. Do you know what I mean though by
Yeah,
that? Like the kind
you
of like
do.
girl boss culture of like being relatable was such a big deal for so long. And
Yep.
I think maybe the pendulum needs to swing back. Like it's okay to have things, like it's okay to not make your business your whole life. And this sounds like your clients,
Mhm.
right?
Oh, I wanna talk about this. Let's get into this because actually, so if you really don't know who I am, I encourage you to go to my website, go to my podcast, but, like, I have 3 pillars that I work with my clients on. Well, 4. I can count 4. People, like, do you have the right team for you? Are they clear on their roles? What does your future org chart look like? What does your AI org chart look like? Your processes, like, is the institutional knowledge in your brain in a place, or is it in a place where if you're on a vacation, your business can run without you? Your profitability, how do we decrease bloat? How do we, look at your revenue cliffs and your concentrated risk? But the other piece that is so key to all of this, like true business success, I think boils down to this one thing. I mean, it's many things, but I think this is like the root cause. And as the biz
Okay.
doctor, I'm all about root causes and not symptoms. Identity work. So there is a large
Yes.
part of my practice with my clients that I work on separating your sense of value and purpose from your business. I have a whole podcast episode about You're Not Your Numbers, I think is what it's called. But if you have not done the work to figure out how to separate your sense of purpose and value and fulfillment and acknowledgement from your business wins or losses or any of that, what happens psychologically is really fascinating. It keeps you stuck because you want to be needed. You want to be valued. And I'm not saying like you shouldn't be needed or valued. That's not what I'm saying. But if it's your be all end all, and this is actually one of the components of one of my keynotes, Culture RX, having mentally happier, healthier, more resilient teams. I talk about Dan Martell's 7 pillars of life. And work is one of 7 pillars.
7.
Like, to have, like, a really great fulfilling life and happiness, even though it's an inside job, work is just a small portion of it. And so if you've wrapped your whole identity, because let's think, when somebody is like, "Hey, my name's Lauren, what's yours?"
Tell me about
What
yourself. Yeah.
right? What do we say? I
What do you
am
do? Yeah.
yeah, like, I am the founder and CEO of Golden Key Partnership. But that's not who I am, that's what I do. And so I think this is one of the missing components to help people, like, really unlock their business and their happiness. Because if you can separate this, then you're gonna be less, like, at the woes of your revenue ebbs and flows, like, feedback like, things are just gonna impact you differently. And fun fact, when you do exit your business, which again, everybody exits, you're not going to have an existential life crisis of who am I because you
Correct.
don't have that visceral connection.
Correct. Oh my gosh, you are speaking my language now because I think maybe by the time we talked on the last podcast, I wasn't as like forthcoming about this like big, huge mental breakdown that I had in 2023. And that was like a 10-year in the making breakdown of my whole identity being wrapped up in my job. And that being, from in my perception of myself, the most interesting thing about me. So when I was making some decisions that ultimately were the right decisions for the business, but hurt us in a financial type of way, I went into like overdrive mode and being like, well, I created this team and I love this team and I want to work with everybody forever. And we had to walk away from like a really hefty contract because it was absolutely toxic. I was like well, this is fine. I just won't sleep or eat or exercise or take care of myself. I'll just do business. I'll just get back to
Yeah.
it and I'll go balls to walls and I'll just go on overdrive. And I made myself sick doing it. Like
Yeah.
bad, bad. And it's been a big like unlearning again, like who are you? What are those limits and boundaries? And like I love my job. And so I was really, really scared that if I wasn't liking it, then who the heck was I? Like, what
Yeah.
this was the thing that I still find myself in these patterns. Earlier this year with my team, we weren't as busy as we wanted to be, so I was like, "Well, I'm not doing so good at sales these days. I wanna just hop in and design social media graphics." I'm the owner of the company. I can't do entry-level work. I've hired people to do entry-level work. So now they're frustrated with me because I'm stepping on their toes, justifiably so. I'm mad at myself because 'cause we're not making sales, and now everyone's upset because we're not working as, like, a well-orchestrated machine. And it's just and we had to break it down, and they had to tell me, "Stop doing my work on top of me." And I was like, "You're so right. You're so right."
Yeah.
But now I'm seeing it with my friends who work corporate, where they're at this, like, they've climbed, they've worked hard, they've worked at companies for 5, 6, 7 years, and they're getting laid off, and they're getting let go. And they're like, "Oh, shit, who the heck am
Yeah.
I? What do I even want? What do I want? Do I wanna be a mom? Do I want to go back to a full-time job? Do I see myself working in the office? Do I?" And now they're kind of having to that decision was made for them, where they had to
Mhm.
really sit down and put it all on the table. But it shakes you up, and I don't think anyone's immune to that.
Mm-mm. No. So there's so many things that I wanna talk about here. Number 1, you are not alone. Like, um,
Yes.
my mental health talk that I gave a few days ago, burnout is still the number 1 top business risk
I
for
believe it.
2025. And I don't think we talk enough about mental health for entrepreneurs, which is why I'm so passionate about it. Because it's not just like, yes, it's entrepreneurs and business owners, but it's also your team. And so for me, the way I define mental health is your emotional, psychological, and social well being, your ability to cope, your resilience, and your awareness that something is happening like around you, not necessarily to you. So, like taking life's ups and downs in stride and being able to bounce back quickly instead of getting knocked out. But coincidentally, as this is what triggered this, there's like about 5 or 6 things that are the top things that impact it. The top 2 are sleep and connection. And those are the
Oh, I
2
believe it.
things that business owners and also employees, those are the first things that were like, I can't sleep. I got to get this done. Like this week was a nuts week with deadlines. And I too sacrificed sleep and, didn't go to things because I was like, I don't have the time. But like human beings, we need that. We need the sleep, the connection, the purpose, the clarity, the safety, the support, the gratitude. We also need challenges and play. And so I think that what you said is just, it's so important to have that boundary, not only in identity, but this is probably going to be a hot take that might get me canceled,
No,
but
say it.
you should also have the boundary of work. And what I mean is
Yes.
so so many people are like, "Oh, I can work from anywhere." So they're like responding to emails at 11 p.m. and like ignoring their children at the dinner table and be like, "I just got to get the slack back." Stop doing that, people. Like just cuz you can, you
Doesn't mean you
shouldn't
should.
like from a psychological neuroscience standpoint, which is my background, like it's so bad for your brain to be constantly plugged in to something digital and missing out on that human to
Yes.
human in person contact. And like there was a crazy study. I'm not going to get the number perfectly right, but it was like when they did a study of fully remote people, 41% responded that they had not left their house in the past 5 days.
Oh, that makes me so
And
upset.
like, okay, that's not great, but it makes
No.
sense because we can Amazon stuff, we can
Right.
shopping cart from the grocery store, like, literally, you don't have to leave your house, but it's so bad for human beings who thrive on connection, and, like, as an employer, I think something that you need to do for your employees is show them that it's okay to disconnect. Like, if you're on a vacation, stop checking in. Like, go on a vacation, show them that it's okay to go on a vacation and that you trust them. If you can't take a 2-week vacation from your business, call me because that's a sign that you have a job, not a business. But, like, really allow your people to have a line of demarcation and say, "When 5 o'clock hits, I'm offline." Like, and I even have, this is actually a really interesting tidbit for those of you listening that have work agreements that you send out. Mine specifically says, "I'm available Monday through Friday from these hours to these hours. I am not available on the weekends. If for some reason you get a response outside those hours, that is the exception, not the
Not
norm.
the rule.
Please allow up to 1 day response time." And I think this is really important to remember that even though we live in a society of instant gratification, if you are requiring instant response from your team or yourself, you're actually keeping yourself in a heightened state of fight or flight and creating an anxiety loop where people just can't disconnect because they're like, "Oh, what if I miss an email or a Slack or something like that?" So I actually have, and then I will get off my soapbox. I have something
No,
that
I'm
I
loving it.
recommend. I have something I recommend for my clients, which is super triggering, but so healthy for everybody. And it's the 48 to 72 hour rule.
Uh-huh.
And essentially, what it is you cannot request something from someone else without a minimum of 48 or 72 hours notice. And trust me, guys, while this might trigger all of you listening, so sorry. It is so helpful because what it stops is the procrastination, the
Yep.
reactivity, the fires, and the worst offenders, the people who are not planning effectively and then are like, "Oh my God, emergency, I need this in 5 minutes." And then you have to stop all the things that you had planned to rescue
Yep.
this person.
Yep.
And what's the quote? It's like lack of planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part.
Emergency.
But we love to support, and as women, we overgive. So this isn't necessarily an issue with all women or not men, but it tends to be us women who are like, "Oh, sure, I'll drop what I'm doing and jump in to save you." So this is a huge shift if you want to have a proactive instead of a reactive business. This one shift will change a lot.
Oh, and it's huge to learn how you work best. Like, I think this is the other thing about setting those limits and boundaries is like we give our clients who are on retainer once a week, they get a 30-minute check-in. Anything that needs to be discussed, we're just going to park it in the agenda for next week because there's no reason between Tuesday and the following Tuesday, something's going to come up that's going to be so drastically. It's marketing. It's not rocket science. It's not heart surgery. Like it's marketing. So and if we're doing our job right, nothing should be an emergency because we should be doing stuff out. We should be finishing your campaign 3 months before it ever launches. Like that's the way that this should go. So short of, again, which happened this last month when there is a national news headline that's really going to disrupt the flow of what it's very crass to be promoting a
Yeah,
product, in my opinion, when there's a lot of discourse online about losing free speech and gun rights and gun control and shootings and all these things, not appropriate. So to be able
right.
to make those types of decisions, absolutely. But on the whole, the business should be in a place where we're not panicked. And the retainer clients we've been able to work with in this way, the way I've seen their mentality change because we added structure and we added check-ins and we added these like stop gaps so that nothing gets so far away from us and so last minute. It's absolutely changed how they function. And it's so fun to see that happen. But from my side too, it's like, hey, Tuesdays are my call days. All day Tuesday, I'm talking on the phone. And they're long and it's involved and it takes a lot of brain power. But I'm not going to expect myself to do heavy lift design work,
Yes.
branding work on a day when I'm in call mode. So I'd rather crunch through all those calls knowing that Wednesday I have to myself, Thursday I have to myself, and Friday I get to talk on the podcast. So it's like learning how you flow with that too is really helpful. But to your point, like there's these 7 pillars that make up your work. So I also need to see my friends. I also got to go to the gym. I also have to walk my dog every day. Like those are, and that sounds so trivial and it sounds so like Pomodoro method, but I swear to God, I live by it. It's like an hour of solid work. And then I got to take 25 minutes to stand up and just clean my house, fold some laundry, make myself a meal, just because it's going to make the time that you come back to the work more effective because you are subconsciously working out problems in your head while you're making an omelet, right? Are you this way too? Is that how you kind of attack your workday?
Oh, yes. So I have like 3 things that I
Yeah,
wanna touch on. Daily themes, which is something I teach, which you touched on. I also where I get my best ideas, and the 3rd thing has escaped me in this moment, but I will come back to it. So I am 100% that way because well, there's an interesting statistic about the law of diminishing returns, especially with our brain. Like, we have 8-hour workdays, but actually our brains are only equipped to do 4 hours of, like,
I believe it.
true, like, cognitive work. So my best place where I get all of my ideas is in the shower. Like, I have a little notepad in the shower sometimes if I can't, but, because it's just like your brain has relaxed and suddenly you can solve problems. And then I really wanna dig into what you were talking about Tuesdays being your call days. So I talk about this a lot in my productivity consulting with my clients. Daily themes. So, like Monday, I have mostly internal meetings. Tuesday and
Same.
Thursday are my client or external consultations. Wednesday is my admin day, which has changed everything because an admin day, guys, listen close, like listen really close. I stole this from the time that I was in the medical field. So, an admin day is a day that if you are a business owner, you are working on your business, not in your business. Because hear me when I say this, your business is not going to grow if you are constantly stuck in client deliverables. And so you have to carve out that time. And so it's not a day to catch up on emails. It's a day of like, what are the 3 things that are actually going to move my business forward? And also, as a slight caveat, revenue is a lagging metric. So if you're still running your business based on revenue, please let this be the wake up call that you need because it's not revenue. It's what creates the revenue. That's what you can control. So that's what you should focus on your admin days. And then Friday, I have as a flex day. Every other Friday, actually, I have it blocked out. So it's a free Friday. Um, but it could be when I'm doing a diagnostic, it could be I'm speaking, I'm traveling, etc. So I think it's so beautiful what you said, where you know yourself and you're like really taking time to set yourself up for success because nobody's schedule is your schedule. And that's the benefit of hybrid work
Right.
and being a business owner is you can make your own schedule. So set yourself up for success.
Yeah, and don't let yourself constantly be on defense. Like, I think I see a lot of freelancers that are just like, they're just getting hit with client expectations. I need it right now. I need it, which is not scalable. You can't build a business that way. So then you're just an order taker on the other side of the line here, which also is training that client how to treat you. Like, I think I learned this from my parents. Is my parents always told us like, you teach other people how to treat you. So you
100%.
by setting those limits and boundaries. And one of my best friends is was let go of her job a few months ago. She's now considering freelancing. She's talking to this person who wants to hire her freelance with the potential of being full time. She's on the hunt for a full time job. This person's messaging her every day. Can you talk right now? And she's like,
No,
no,
yeah,
no, like, you don't own my time. Just because 'cause I'm
no,
helping you with a project doesn't mean I'm gonna be available to you. And he's like, "Well, we could just have a quick check-in every single day." And so she's calling me. She's like, "Is that realistic?" And I was like, "No, no."
no.
I was like, "You need to understand the scope, and you need to be really clear about what your availability is and what you're looking for, which is a full-time opportunity." So you can't this person can't expect to own your all of your work week. Like, that's just not realistic. And it's just, like, feels so I think ooh, let's go into this direction now. From now that we've covered kind of the business owner perspective, let's talk more how do you set those parameters as an employee or as a freelancer of like, okay, I'm working for a company, I'm working for someone else, but I still need my boundaries respected within this changing like landscape, right? Like what
Yeah.
are the appropriate parameters to put on something like that?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a couple things to dig into here. First, I lovingly tell everybody the reminder of unless there's blood, bone, or someone's on fire or unconscious, it's not an actual emergency. And I say
Yes.
that as somebody that was in the medical field that dealt with all of those things except fire. I was not a firefighter. So, like putting that in context, I think is really important. And working for somebody that understands that is also very important because I'm going to tell you a very interesting story about setting boundaries that answers this question. So, I am an award winning business consultant and advisor, and occasionally I will come in as fractional COO and actually be in the business. And I had a client not that long ago, and I'm going to set the stage. It was our quarterly meeting in Dallas. So I left on Thursday. I drove 3.5 hours to Dallas, got there, got dinner with one of my really good friends, went to sleep, was facilitating this quarterly meeting from like 7:30 to, let's say, 5, and then we had a team dinner after. So my day was like 7:30 to, let's just say, 8. Then I drive back to Austin on Saturday. On Monday morning, that my client and I have a call. And he says on this call, "Did you see my emails?" And I said, "Oh no, I haven't checked your emails yet because I'm not one that checks them first thing in the morning. I check them around 11 because most of my calls, like I set up my mornings so I'm not like rushing into meetings."
Bombarded. Hmm.
Hand to God, this is what he says to me. I'm going to need you to respond to my emails faster. And I took a breath and I said, "Thank you for the request. As a reminder, in my contract, it says that it may take up to 1 business day for me to respond. I also would like to remind you that I have been with you, excluding Sunday, for the past 3 days, like working for your business." And I said, "Is there anything urgent in there that has to be responded to right now?" And he said, "No." And then he goes, "So I can expect you to respond by tomorrow at this time?" And I said, "Well, actually, you'll probably get a response in maybe a couple of hours after we're done with these calls with your team. But the point here is I think it's really scary to set boundaries, but you shouldn't be afraid of that because actually boundaries and structure reduces anxiety because I don't know if you guys have heard my favorite quote, but here it comes. Unshared expectations are nothing more than premeditated resentments. So if you're not communicating those boundaries, even as an employee, then you're going to start to feel resentful because of something that's not being said. So I actually ended up firing this client because fire's a strong word. We just didn't
Yeah.
renew their contract.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But I'm like, "You're not respecting my boundaries." And
Right.
you're also, coincidentally, they had a really big retention problem because he also didn't respect his employees' boundaries. So if you're an employer, or if you are an employee of a employer, wow, try to say that 5 times fast, that is not respecting your boundaries, that's probably an uphill battle you're not going to win. And I would recommend working for someone that does see that. But if you are in an environment with an employer that has healthy boundaries and good emotional intelligence, just having the conversation of like, "Hey, I pick up my kids from school at 3:30 and it's really important that I do that. So every day I need to leave at 3 o'clock. And then when they get back and settled and have their snack, I'll be back on at 4 to 5. But like this block of time during my day is not negotiable." Because most employers want to keep you. They want to make it work. They just don't know what your boundaries are. So if you're not communicating your boundaries, it's really hard for them to set you up for success.
Absolutely. And that's something I think was one of the gifts that came out of COVID. Like, I think that was one of the gifts that came out of this work remote hybrid, like, can you do your job from anywhere lifestyle? And it's just so interesting, like, how much, again, the pendulum, the requiring people to be back in office. I have another friend of mine I went to college with who her company required everyone to be back in office. And she's like, no. She's like, you can lay
Yeah.
me off, but like, no, like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And she's now not with that company because she's like, that
Okay.
doesn't work for a lifestyle. I bought a home 3 hours from the HQ because I was told that this was a remote job. I'm not relocating myself and planning my wedding at the same time to be at a job that I don't even want to be at in the first place.
You all know how much I love a brag-worthy brand, and when it comes to creating stickers and labels that elevate your branding, Sticker Giant is the brand that you can trust. Whether you're looking to create something for fun for your next launch, elevate your brand, or add a little extra flair to your packaging, Sticker Giant's custom stickers and labels help your brand get noticed in all the right ways. They've got a dedicated team handling every detail, so you can count on Sticker Giant to bring your designs to life just the way that you imagined. And Sticker Giant stickers and labels are proudly made in the US of A. If you're ready to give your brand that extra boost, go to stickergiant.com and use promo code KMA25 for 25% off your first order. Sticker Giant, your partner in the sticker and label business.
So I think it's crazy how much all of that is in the water. We're leaving the big juicy carrot for the end, which is the AI conversation. So I'd love
Ooh,
to go there with
yes.
you because I know you've
Let's
been
do it.
sharing a lot on LinkedIn. You kind of teased before, like, what is your org chart? What's your AI org chart? I'm an AI optimist. I have reservations, but I'm
Yeah.
overwhelmingly an AI optimist because it has transformed my business, I think, for the better. But talk to me about what that looks like from a hiring standpoint, from a scalability standpoint, and from a general, like, there's no putting Pandora back in the box,
Mm-mm.
in my opinion.
No.
So,
Mm-mm.
where's your head at recently with AI and AI in business?
Yes. So I feel like I'm an elder millennial. So I remember what it was like before we really had the internet. Like we had dial up internet. Like I still hear that sound in my dreams. And I remember when I was so excited to hear you got mail, like so excited. I was like, oh my God, somebody sent me an email. And now I don't even know how many emails that I need to check today. So I feel like we're at that same precipice point of like where Gmail was just created and the internet was like really like starting to like come and be in everybody's home. So this, in my opinion, is the tech wave of the future. It's not going to go anywhere. It is accelerating at an insane pace. Like I taught a workshop yesterday, and while most of what I talked about is not going to be irrelevant in, a few weeks time, it's going to be something that I'm going to have to continually tweak because there's just new things and concerns and all of that. So the question is, because it's still early, even though it feels like it's top of mind, I still think maybe like 70% of people aren't using it. So, or they might dabble, but they're probably like when I say using it, I mean daily and using it for their jobs or their personal life or something like that. And so I think two things. One of the jobs that is going to pop up from this is an AI agent manager. So someone that's building agents, that's making sure the agents are doing what they need to be doing, things like that. Like I think that AI teams is very much just around the corner. And in fact, something that I'm telling my clients is my good friend Austin Netzley said several years ago, every department should have a VA to support the department with the stuff that's the low level stuff that your high level critical thinkers,
Yes.
A players should not be working on. Now, what I say to my clients is every team member should have 3 to 5 agents that are doing that low level stuff. So the people that you are paying for their critical thinking, their expertise, et cetera, are not bogged down in just like the stuff that kind
Minutia.
of sucks. Yeah,
Yeah.
the minutia. So that's one. And then the other thing is I think there's a mindset shift that needs to happen. Sure. Do we know how all of this information that we're putting into the LLMs is actually being used? No, we don't. So don't put anything in there that you wouldn't want your next door neighbor to know. Make sure that your privacy data control settings are, turned off, that you're not helping the models learn. But more than that, I think, and we talked a little bit about this in the green room, it's about understanding that if you are not providing like critical thinking to your clients or your employer and something that is more complex than just doing something that can be done over and over again, you should be worried. You like, sorry, I can't sugarcoat it. You need to go learn
Yep.
skills that are more more valuable because
Yes.
something that does not like even AI agents have a lot of logic now. So the piece of consultants and service providers that I think will always be needed is this. The power of the unbiased third party. So what I mean by this is most business owners hire us because they have a problem to solve that they are too close to solve on their own, or they don't have the expertise to solve it. So in my case, most of my clients don't know how to get out of their own way. And so I'm helping them do that and helping them see the forest for the trees and like pull back and see where we're going. The way the analogy I use a lot is I don't know where you're tuning in from, but we have a highway here in Austin called I-35 that I swear to God is just nonstop traffic no matter what time it is. And so it's like picture your clients in that traffic and they're behind like a semi truck. So they can't see if it's an accident, they can't see if the bridge is out, they can't see if it's a lane closure because all they see is the back of the semi truck. So you come along and you're in a helicopter and like Inspector Gadget. Oh my God, I just aged myself so much.
No, you're good. I did
You're gonna,
Inspector Gadget. Yeah.
okay, great. You're going to pull them out of the car,
Uh-huh.
drag them up to the helicopter and be like, okay, here's where you are. Here's where you want to go. Here are the different paths to get there. And so I don't think AI is going anywhere. If anything, it is very much here to stay. And it's here to show you where you get to level up and provide more value. Because to go back to your friend who person was telling them, I want a check-in call every day. Like for me, if you want more calls, you pay more money because it's about access, right? You're still
Yes, of
getting the same
course. Of course.
expertise, but it's about access. And with access and expertise and the power of the unbiased third party and expertise that comes with that, if you're worried that your job is going to be taken away, like if you're a copywriter or a graphic designer is going to be taken away by AI, it's possible, but hopefully this will give you a little bit of soothe. Even if I prompt my AI with the best dang prompt where I'm like, you are a world-renowned copywriter, you've done like all the things,
Sure.
because the power is in the prompt, right? You're going to get out what you put in. Even if I do that, my LLM is still going off of the memories of our conversations, what it thinks I want it to say, what it's kind of viewing out here. And the truth is, it's not an expert in ghostwriting or copywriting or design or marketing or PR. It knows enough to be dangerous and probably enough to like do 80% of the job. But what I tell my clients, which I think will help anyone listening who's worried about AI, there's a really big chasm between mediocre and good. There is an
Yes.
equally big chasm between good and great.
Great.
That's why they wrote the book. Where I operate and where the people who will leverage AI and ride this wave are in the 2 millimeters between great and extraordinary. So the businesses that are, sorry if this is offensive, mediocre or good, they are not your target audience. They're not
No.
really interested in getting great. But the people who want to be great, who want to stay relevant, who don't want to be just creating more noise or fumbling through the dark, who want to be extraordinary, those are the people that are not going to say, I'm just going to have ChatGPT do this, or I'm going to have Claude write this. Like, I know that for a lot of my stuff, that's good enough. But for like true expertise that I know is going to get my business to the next level, I'm not going to go to ChatGPT or Claude. And I think that most smart business owners won't either. So don't lose heart. Just brush up on your skills to be that like expert critical thinker that's giving them that perspective shift they need.
And there's a few things that AI, as we know it now, at the time I'm recording this episode, can't do. Taste,
Yep.
curate, and also be able to meld ideas based on lived experiences.
Yes.
The AI, again, is only reflecting what your output is only as good as your input. So if you're giving it good information, you're going to get better output. I'm
Yep.
working on branding right now for a woman who's a coffee consultant. She's run a coffee shop and now she's a
Ooh.
coffee consultant. Very cool business. Coffee consultant,
Love that.
workshops, barista education, coffee
Mhm.
tourism, travel. Fascinating. So she's starting this brand called Studio Tigre, which is going to be a coffee universe. And so I've been
Love that.
working on the branding this morning. I was on TikTok Live. And I was showing how I was getting the results from ChatGPT to create the vector graphics. So I wanted all these different tiger options to pull from
Yeah.
to not just make one tiger the only logo, like a sports team, but instead to have all this variety within the branding. And someone was
Mm.
asking me, like, how are you getting such good output? And I pulled up the ChatGPT channel and I said, here's the channel in ChatGPT I've been talking to for the last 3 weeks working on this project.
Yeah.
Here's the whole brand questionnaire that I did with the client that was a 90-minute deep dive on their brand. Here's my deep research about Chinese mythology, Japanese mythology, Southeast Asian mythology around tigers, because if I'm going to be dipping my toe in that cultural pond, I want to make sure I'm doing it justice. Here are all the artists that I've studied since then. Here's all the back work. So by the time I asked, create a flash sheet of vector graphics of tigers in different orientations, it had all this context. Like there
Yeah.
was all of that in there. And I still took 16 different iterations to get
Right.
to the ones that I wanted to use. And so it was showing that, but it's just this assumption that because you're using an AI tool in your process, that it's just giving you immediate good output is a fallacy.
Such a
So I
fallacy.
think that's part of it. And then I think the other thing as we head into 2026, that's gonna start being on every working like almost entry level, like new grad type job opportunity, you're gonna be expected to know how to do AI prompting in the way that you used to be expected to do an Excel spreadsheet, have Canva skills, have PowerPoint skills. And in that also, besides just learning AI and using AI, I think content creation is going to be another job
Yeah.
requirement that's going to be universally expected for entry level. How can you document your process? How do you
Yeah.
document your thoughts? How do you share your thoughts from LinkedIn to your own personal social media to employee generated content? How do you reflect the brand values through your brand voice? That's a skill set, whether it's podcast, video, posts, written, Substack, email. It's going to be a
Yeah.
skill you're going to have to learn. You agree? You're in agreement with
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
idea.
I am in
AI
agreement with
skills and content creation.
100%. And also, I think AI is a great litmus test for if you're a good
Yep.
leader. And this is one of my favorite. Sorry if this is another trigger moment, but if you are getting, pardon my French, shit out of your
Yes.
AI, it's because you're not being clear about the definition of done. And a lot of times come into teams and I see things that aren't working and frustrations and resentments. It's because you're not clear on the definition of done and what their success is being measured on. So if you're struggling getting what you want from AI, it's not AI's fault. It's your fault for not setting the context and the definition of done of what you want. And if you're struggling, this is like a blaring neon sign of you need to do a better job of getting the clarity of what you want, why you want it, what the definition of done is, because that's going to make you not only get better things out of AI, but it's going to help you get better results out of your team.
And like you said, setting expectations to then eliminate future resentment, right? Of like
Yep.
if the goal is clear, then you shouldn't. I always tell this to clients too with branding. When you see the presentation, you should be excited but not surprised. I'm not trying
Right.
to surprise you. I'm not trying to show you something that's so radically different from everything that we've been looking at this whole time. This should feel like it's clicking in. This shouldn't feel like oh, I'm shocked at the result.
Right. Yeah.
No, 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 no. So that means we were not communicating well. And if you are feeling shocked by the result, then we need to go backwards and we got to go back to square one and be like, okay, where did we miss each other? Where was that miscommunication? Why wasn't
Yep.
what you were telling me translating into what I'm showing you? And I think that is also, part of it. And also, like, we can tell when you're not trying that hard with AI. It's so
Yeah.
obvious when someone is doing the first output. It's so obvious when your caption is written by ChatGPT and you don't sound like yourself. It's so
Right.
obvious. So it's just like, it's such a tell now. Maybe because we're just in it and like we are using it all the time. But
Maybe. Maybe.
yeah,
But it's like, I look at AI as like the springboard for efficiency and productivity that can help me do my job better. And also, like, I have a prompt that actually does illuminate my blind spots and it's ruthless and
yeah,
triggering to myself. But it's great because it's like, oh, you've been like, I'm looking at our chat history and you've asked this question like 17 times. Maybe you should like make a process. I don't know. That was a funny example, but I definitely think it's something that is your friend and the more, like the faster you can get on board, the less likely you'll be that you'll get left behind.
And it's not that people are working with professionals to give them answers they cannot find elsewhere. I think this is the other thing too, right? Is like if someone came to you and they're like, why should I hire you if I could just ask all the same questions to AI? Like, why would I hire a logo designer if I can get a logo from AI? And my rebuttal is that because I can get you something that's actually going to be effective. You may get artwork. It might work. But I have a proven strategy and a proven process from 11 plus years of doing this that I can understand all the criteria and be able to give
Yeah.
you something that's going to actually get you a return on your business. But for yourself, where like there's not like an asset deliverable, how are you explaining like what that value is? Not that someone would do this to you, but here I'm throwing out a hypothetical. If someone's like,
Right.
why would I work with you if I could just
Why
get
would
all
I
these
work with you?
questions answered?
So I think it comes down to the mindset shift of how much is this going to cost me to how much is this going to
Yes.
make me? Like,
Yes.
that's a huge shift from good to
I
great
love
and
that.
great to extraordinary. And so for me, absolutely, you could go pretend ChatGPT to be your business consultant and advisor and all this stuff. But the best analogy I have for this is there's a story of this manufacturing plant and the assembly line goes down. Everyone's panicked. The foreman calls the expert. He comes in, he like walks around it. He goes a few times, grabs out a hammer, hits it in a certain spot, and it springs to life. And he writes out his bill. And the foreman is aghast. He's like, $10,000? Are you kidding me? You were here for 5 minutes. And he's like, I need this itemized. So the guy takes it back, crosses it off, says, hitting the production line, $1. Knowing where to hit, $9,999.
$99.
And I think this perfectly illustrates the benefit of expertise is I have 14 years experience in so many different businesses, like intimate, not just surface level stuff that you can find online. Because let's be honest, that's what ChatGPT is scraping is what's online. And so for that, I think you just have to remember that you have so much expertise that it doesn't have. But the other thing beside that is you're collapsing timeline. All of that
Yes.
research, all of that learning is costing them money. And so, like, I have an exercise that I do with them sometimes, which is like, hey, have you figured out your hourly rate? And let's say it's $1,500. And I'm like, so that thing that you keep doing instead of letting your team doing it, you're actually costing yourself $4,500 every time you do.
Dollars to get it done. Exactly. No, that's what I explain as well. It's like everything you want to learn does exist already on the internet for free. When you're paying a professional, you're paying that person to not only curate that information for you, it's to
Yep.
fast track you towards the result. And also the added accountability of knowing that you're doing the right steps in the right order. And that if
Yeah.
you have to pivot, you can pivot correctly. Right. So if we go to launch with packaging design and we realize the competitor is using the same color on their box, that's going to be a problem. So it's like I can figure out, okay, on the spectrum of the other packaging options, where is their wiggle room? Where is their space? And like, could ChatGPT figure that out? Maybe. But
Maybe.
it's the fast track of the curated information is what you're paying a professional for. And I
Exactly.
think that that's where employees and people entering the workforce need to position themselves as is like, I am industrious enough to find the right answers, but I want you to be able to trust me that I can get there quickly and accurately because I have all this experience. And that's what
Yeah.
I bring to the table that you're not going to find with anybody else. And that's a hard pitch to say no to.
Yeah. It's like a Sherpa up Mount Everest. You're not going to just go climb yourself. You're going to get a guide.
And the last note I'll leave with that as like an antidote to AI kind of positioning is access to community and to network.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, you can hire ChatGPT to do your logo, but it's maybe me designing your logo and getting to know your business and realizing you have a very parallel company to another client of mine. That's that you're getting access not only to my skill and my talent, but to my people and
Yeah.
exposure to my audience and exposure via the
Snaps
podcast.
to
Like
that. Yes.
that's a whole thing we're also not talking about. And I think that is what makes an attractive hire because if somebody came to me and they're like, hey, I'm a graphic designer, I want to work on your team, I used to work for Airbnb. I'd be like, yeah. I used to work for a beverage company. I'm like, yeah, come on over because you not only have specialized knowledge, but you probably still have contacts with the actual
Probably.
people
Yeah.
in good places, in places that I want to be in. But I love all this stuff. And I think this is such a worthy conversation, both from like the employer side, the employee side. If you could leave somebody with something, hopefully it's not another 2 years before we have you back on the podcast. But if you could give anybody kind of a little hoorah by the end of this episode to make them feel better about the way the world is going, what's your takeaway message?
I would say, ooh, this is such a good question. I'm going to try and make this short and sweet, but you said something before about like your burnout. Earlier this year, I had like quite a crazy, it wasn't a burnout, but it was like an existential life crisis. I actually won Austin under 40 for business and operations, which was such an honor. And
Amazing.
I wasn't there. And it hurt me because I was like, oh my gosh, this moment of like acknowledgement that I've been waiting for so long, I wasn't there. And I think so what I wanna leave you with is it can feel really hard, like you're not getting to the top of the mountain or you're not getting the acknowledgement or recognition that you want. Your day will come, like, let your success be the noise and know that even someone like myself who's been doing this for 14 years has moments where I feel unworthy, like a fraud, like I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I burned myself out. Like this week, so busy. I'm not burned out, but I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And so I say that because we don't talk about our lows enough. I think we really
Agree.
only
Agree.
look at everyone else's highlight reel and compare them to our behind the scenes. So if you're going through something, if you're questioning who you are or your value or something like that, reach out to your inner circle. Heck, reach out to me so I can like shed some light on the journey because being an entrepreneur is like personal development with a paycheck and it will make all the dragons of doubt just like breathe fire. So make sure you don't sequester and isolate yourself. Like it's okay to ask for support and say, I'm struggling right now.
Oh, completely. And I think you bring up a good point of asking people in your circle. Like, I think that's one of the beauties that came out of this podcast is I've been able to reach out to people where I'm like, hey, haven't seen you post on social in a while. Something tells me you got something going on. What's going on? And just being
Yeah.
curious and being like, I'm in a weird spot too. And business is unpredictable and tariffs are putting people out of business. Like, there's just so many
Yeah.
factors that I think and some of that is not appropriate to put on all over, for me at least, all over my Instagram
Yep.
story. I support a team financially. So I
Yeah.
can't get on there sobbing, crying about why we don't have any jobs. That doesn't also particularly help me sell more jobs. So I had to figure out like, okay, who do I know that's in a similar season of life and season of business to me where like I'm not looking to kill myself for my job. Like I'd like to have some work-life balance, but I'd also am okay with a little bit of a plateau right now. Like I don't need to build this huge thing. So it's like finding those people that you can kind of call on and I had one conversation with a friend of mine and she's like, "Oh yeah, no, I sold my business." And I was like, "What?" She's like,
What?
"Yeah, I completely closed and so like sold and got rid of that entire business." And I was like, "Okay, well that makes a lot of sense why I haven't seen anything about
Yeah.
it online." And she's like, "Yeah, because I'm not done." She's like, "I didn't need to announce that to her." I was like, "Okay." I was like, "You're so right," but I think we just assume like you kind of I've seen so many people that I've known for 5, 6 years completely fade out of the picture
Yeah.
completely fade out. And it's like, yes, it was a parasocial relationship from social media in the first place. But I'm like, are you still operating? Like, what's going on? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you don't know until you ask. And I think that that's part of it too, is when you're only bombarded with, like you're saying, the highlight reel, people's wins, awards, victories, this, that, the other thing, conferences that they're at. It's hard to remember that there are people who aren't feeling that way. And also that that's can sometimes be an overcompensation for things not going well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're
Absolutely.
so right on all those things. It happens to everyone. I think
It
being
does.
honest about it, I think that's why I love long form. That's why I love podcasts for that reason, because you can kind of get into the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
Um, but thank you again so much for your time. Please tell everyone where they can find you, follow you, reach out to you, work with you, plug yourself.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. I always love our chats. They're the highlight of my day. So I would say the best place to find me if you loved what I shared is my podcast, the Biz Doctor podcast, which is available on all streaming platforms. If you're on LinkedIn, that's where I am most active. And then if you want to check out our services, goldenkeypartnership.com.
Fabulous. Thanks, somebody. Oh my gosh. Thanks, everyone, for listening. It was a doozy of a podcast. Now I'm tripping on my own words. You can tell it's Friday. And if you like this episode, please don't forget to send it to a friend, share it, save it, subscribe on YouTube, subscribe everywhere you listen to podcasts. Go find Lauren's podcast, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks so much, Lauren.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.